Welcome to the Businesses Start Here podcast, hosted by David Vigliotti and Vigliotti and Associates. We're here to talk with business owners and business experts to inspire and encourage entrepreneurs.
Hey, welcome to the first edition of the Businesses Start Here podcast. I'm really excited today. We have a great guest, somebody that I got to know really quickly. We met once and basically got into business together a couple weeks later. So Justin Riapos is with us today, formerly owner and founder of Brix Property Management. Now he's sold that business and is a real estate agent with LifeSpace, right?
Yep.
LifeSpace.
LifeSpace.
And is killing it there too. So he's done a great job. Not only did he start a business and sell it for a profit, now he's taking some of that profit, using it to fund his real estate business. So Justin, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah.
We're excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So Justin, thanks for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Justin Riapos, born and raised in Steubenville, Ohio. I was, 45 minutes from Pittsburgh growing up, so I was somewhat familiar with the city. I always felt that for some reason I'd end up in Pittsburgh. It was kind of like, not in the grand scheme of things, not the biggest city, but the biggest to me.
It's the best city.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Instead of like Cleveland or Columbus, I was always kind of drawn to, Pittsburgh, and Steeler fan growing up, so it's probably part of the reason. But yeah, I went to Slippery Rock University. Going into school, I always felt, I had entrepreneurial tendencies. I was always interested in real estate. My mom is a real estate agent, which, just being super young, being in the office, just being around that, I think probably had some seeds of, planting those interests, I guess. But went to school and really was just average student, didn't put much into it. I never
so
even
typical entrepreneur, right?
Typical entrepreneur, yeah. Not to sound
surprised
cliche.
you graduated.
Yeah, I honestly, I after 2 years, my sophomore year, I got a good job, and I was very close. Like every family member, pretty much. Like I think it was my now father-in-law, but my girlfriend at the time, Tori, my wife now, her dad wrote a little post-it note. I forget, it was in my apartment, and it was like, what did it say? It said something like "Stay in school!" exclamation point. Like literally to because I knew that I didn't necessarily have to have that degree.
Right.
I was always, even at a young age before college, I felt very confident and I could take care of myself, and always had a job, and really did kind of amass that entrepreneurial spirit. But the one good thing about college, I guess, what I took away from that, other than just building relationships and getting to know people, I fell into property management. Most people in this field or in property management do in fact fall into it somehow.
It's not an industry you think of when you think of real estate. It's kind of
it's kind of
an
like
afterthought.
Exactly. It's really not a super popular industry. It's kind of a forethought in the sense of you think of investing in all these different assets of owning the asset, but you don't think of the actual management of it.
And that's the biggest headache.
It is. So or it can be.
Yeah.
But so I fell into this. I was actually my sophomore year of college. Actually my freshman year, right before I went home that summer, ending my first year in college, I kind of just got by. It was probably the first year that I didn't have a job in since I was 15, 16. And I remember sitting on the bench right before school let out and we were going home for the summer, and I had like $100 to my name, and I was just completely broke. And I was just thinking to myself, man, I gotta do something here. I was like, I know I'm still in school and stuff, but that was just my how I kicked, what drove me, and just I knew I had to get something going.
Right.
So I went home that summer, had some odd jobs, construction, whatever it was, I don't even remember. Come back my sophomore year, and the apartment complex, I moved out of the dorms and I moved into an apartment complex, and they were hiring. I had no idea what they were hiring for. It was like 6 or 7 page application. My brain process was like, okay, it's a massive application. I don't think many people are going to be applying. I was like, I'm going to fill it out and see what happens, get some more information, fill it out, end up 60 people applied. And it was for a leasing consultant position. So, sounds super cool. Makes sense why so many people applied. But I ended up getting an interview, and like I said, it was literally 55, 60 people who applied. I think they narrowed that down to like 6 or 7 people. And at the time, I didn't know this, but they, after talking to my managers years later, they originally were going to hire 1 person. But they ended up hiring 2 of us. They really liked us. And supposedly the only reason that I got the position was because I mentioned that I had interest in real estate. And the property manager of that apartment complex at the time, like, just really loved that and kind of saw that in me, and ended up hiring me. So sophomore year, I get into property management in the form of being a leasing agent. So this apartment complex, it's like 632 beds. A bunch of college students live there, and I'm pretty much working in the office, leasing and just really a sales agent for the apartment complex.
So cutting your teeth. Yeah.
Really, and it was cool because a college kid and making a couple $1,000s every paycheck, just commissions on these leases, and I mean there would be times where it was like a $4,000 or $5,000 commission check, and like as a college kid, that was insane. So. Did
you save much of it, or did you spend it all?
No, I spent it all. I spent it all, literally. Terrible with money at the time, but I really saw that I had, an advantage of an in with a good company after college. So going back, that's really why, like, my sophomore year, I was like, okay, I don't need school. Luckily, I did stick it out and, all that good stuff. But really, as soon as my sophomore year, I knew I had, somewhat of a game plan. Again, going back to, I always had these entrepreneurial tendencies, but I knew post-college I would potentially have a job in this career.
Were you thinking of starting a business at that point in the back of your mind, or did you think that this would lead to that, or was it kind of, this is the opportunity in front of me, I'll figure out a way at some point to start a business?
More that. I knew there would, my mindset was I'm so fresh and so young into this still, I need to amass as much knowledge as possible and leverage that and, then create something. I did want to get my real estate license. I wish I got it much sooner than I did. My career into the corporate world of property management delayed that a little bit, but I always had interest in that and knew I'd get my real estate license eventually, but I knew I would start a business, but I had no idea how or when. But long story short, I ended up graduating, kind of working my way up. In the company that managed this apartment complex, they were the 3rd or 4th largest private-owned property management company in the U.S. So they're a huge company, the Price Company. They're based out of North Carolina in Raleigh, and they had properties everywhere. I forget how many. I want to say around like 30,000 properties at the time that they managed. I could be butchering that number, but they were big. And quickly, just in that position, I really started to get some recognition just as a leasing consultant, not only like in that for that apartment complex, but like within the company. So that's really kind of what led me onto that path of like taking interest into property management. So long story short, I graduate, 3 or so years later, and then I ended up taking a position in Morgantown, West Virginia, as the property manager there for the same company, just different location. And I should mention, this is all student housing. So these are, huge apartment complexes where college students live.
And are you pretty young at that time for a property manager?
Yeah, very young. So, and that was probably at the time one of the more difficult, thing. I had maintenance technicians and maintenance supervisors that were twice my age, and while I was in Morgantown, that's really where, in Slippery Rock as a leasing agent, I started doing some more accounting things as like an assistant property manager, and just helping out the different managers at that office. So I got a lot of knowledge there, but in Morgantown as the property manager is really where I, amassed all of my wealth of knowledge. I think I had about 15 people underneath me, different managers, leasing consultants, the maintenance team, shuttle drivers, groundskeepers. It was a pretty big staff. This specific property had 912 beds. So in student housing, you really measured the size of the property by the bed count because it's all individually leased. So 912 beds. I mean, it's a Class A luxury style apartment complex. Valued like a $50-60 million asset. It's top of the line. Very.
You were
nice.
22 managing it?
Yeah, I was 23 when I graduated. So 23, and I'm the rent roll is $500,000 a month coming in, and I'm building the budget, and
that's not even a real money number to you at that point.
Oh, it's insane. I can't even fathom just but it's crazy. You have $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a day coming in rent,
Right.
And you're responsible for, all of the financials. I had a regional manager, but in terms of managers on site, I was it.
Right.
Our regional manager would maybe come, once a quarter or so. I'm building budgets, overseeing the leasing staff, making sure we're, 912 properties to keep leased. So,
Right.
We're constant during leasing season, we're signing hundreds of leases a month. Like, it's insane. So it's, in charge of the marketing, making sure the maintenance and groundskeepers and shuttle drivers are all staying on par, and it was a big operation. So I was there for about 3.5 years, and kind of going back to what I said, I knew that I really at some point wanted to leverage some knowledge in an industry, and really pretty early I found that this was going to be the industry that I could leverage my knowledge and start my own company.
So it was a combination of the passion that was kind of built when your mom was a real estate agent, so you knew real estate generally.
Yep.
You probably didn't even know what property management was at the time.
Had no idea.
But then you get all this specific knowledge in this very specific area that a lot of people probably don't want to do.
Yep.
And the opportunity's there.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And so I really leveraged what I knew, and I having those entrepreneurial tendencies, I wasn't, I was excited to do this. I wasn't scared to, at this point I'm super young and making, good money. It was a tough job, and this whole time I was living in Pittsburgh, so I'm commuting to Morgantown, 150 miles a day, pretty much like 70 miles one way.
Right.
So I'm commuting, living in the South Hills at the time, commuting to Morgantown. I did that for about 3.5 years. And those drives were really kind of like, just my podcast binging really started. Just, that was college part 2 for me. Just,
More practical, probably.
Exactly, it really was, and because it was so specified, like I'm, Bigger Pockets, Gary V, Grant Cardone, like any podcast that just mainly real estate stuff, just amassing like as much, wealth of knowledge as I can. But yeah, so I'm doing that for 3.5 years, and pretty quickly I knew that I wanted to start my own business.
You listen to those guys long enough, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, you really don't. You just get sucked into it. I ended up getting, so let me see, when I graduated and then I got the position in Morgantown, that was about 2015. I was there till about 2018. I ended up getting my real estate license in 2017,
Okay.
but I was very, very part-time. Obviously, I'm a full-time property manager in
Right.
Morgantown. I think my first year I sold 1 house.
And was that in Pennsylvania? You had your
That was in
license?
PA. Yep. So I'm living in Pittsburgh. I knew at some point I would need this license and could leverage that. I wanted to be an agent, but I was really naive even at the time of getting my license. Naive in the fact of like not knowing how much effort it takes to be a successful real estate agent. It's a full-time job in itself. It's very, very, very tough to do part-time. Or
There's
being
a lot
good
of
at it.
Right? There's a lot of competition in that field.
Oh yeah,
It's
it
cutthroat.
is. It is pretty cutthroat. But so I get my license in 2017. That was probably like the beginning of thinking about the second phase here. I wanted it. It became pretty obvious. Just I would get home at probably 6 o'clock or so, and really from like I'd eat dinner, and then like 7:30 till midnight, 1 o'clock, I'm constantly just like thinking about what I can do to get things going, like start my own business. I know it needs to be a property management business because that's what I know. I saw a need for it in Pittsburgh. I at this point knew enough people in Pittsburgh to where I could tell that there was a need for this.
What specifically showed you there was a need?
The service aspect of it, property management, and not to knock any specific companies, and but property management in general, taking Pittsburgh aside. Property management in general is a very underwhelming customer service experience, whether it's for the tenants or the actual property owners. It's an interesting field too, because you kind of have you have two clients in one.
Right.
You're kind of working for the tenant and making their experience as best as possible, but also for the owner of the property, who's technically your client.
Right.
So it's kind of like this two-way street where you kind of have to balance, and keep everybody happy to some degree. But yeah, it was just seeing that there was not, coming from student housing where it's almost only customer service driven. Reviews are so big there. You're dealing with such a younger demographic, and reviews and customer service was just so embedded in us, just in that field. But like residential property management, completely different. So I knew that there was a need for it.
So I think that's a big business lesson. Sometimes people have an idea for a business, and they force it, right?
For sure.
I think what was awesome about what you did is, and I think there's luck involved too, right?
Yeah.
So like the industry you got into kind of by accident had a huge need.
For sure.
Right? So there's this gap in the market between what the customers want and what's being provided. And Brix really came in, and I saw it firsthand. It came in. I mean, the stuff you posted on social media,
it was
the way you interacted with your clients on both sides.
For sure.
You fit that need. So I think there's sometimes not a product market fit with a lot of people. That's why a lot of businesses fail. Not the other reason.
They're forcing it.
They're forcing, and there's not clients out there for what they have. So I think
so true, and that's such an important thing for property management, because whether it's an owner or a tenant, I mean, it goes both ways. A tenant doesn't want to live at a place where they hate their landlord, and a real estate investor doesn't want to work with a property manager that they can't trust. So I knew it was like a no-brainer just to kind of come in, and I at this point, so I had my license with a small brokerage in Dormont at the time when I got my license, and I really joined I didn't know anybody in Pittsburgh. I was familiar with the city, like I said, Steubenville, Ohio is about 45 minutes away.
Burb of the Berg.
The Burb of the Berg. You know what's so funny about that? My one buddy always made fun of me for that. And he would just laugh at those commercials. In Steubenville, I never saw those commercials. So they're played up here, but for some reason, I've growing up never saw them.
That makes sense. They don't need to advertise, you're already there.
So I was like, what are you talking about? Like every time I say Steubenville, he's like, and he was like, Burb of the Berg. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he showed me, and I was like, oh my god. But it's true, Steubenville is so small, and that little town, it's just like, it was very similar to Pittsburgh in the sense of being a steel, a steel town. It wasn't in Steubenville, but like in Weirton Steel, so Steubenville is really interesting. It's like one of the most eastern cities of Ohio. So you have, you can be in West Virginia in minutes and in PA in minutes. But yeah, he always made fun of me for that. But yeah, so I'm, I forget where I was at now. I
do too.
Yeah, I think it was more or less like,
you didn't know anybody in Pittsburgh, but you.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody. I had my license hung with a small little brokerage in Dormont, and it was more or less, because I told him my property management background, the owner of that company loved it, and I was really going to try to, at this point, this was my, I guess, way of creating my own property management company. I was going to hang my license and really only practice property management. Try to, gain as much of a book of business as possible under this brokerage where my license is hung, and, take care of the clients in terms of managing the properties, leasing the properties, and all that good stuff. Didn't pan out. We didn't pick up one client. It just
why?
I don't know. It's at this time I was still working full time, so it was tough for me to really commit to picking up different clients. But it just, I don't know. Bad timing for one, probably. I saw the vision, just wasn't ready for it in the sense of having, the full spectrum kind of laid out for me. Not in the sense of like somebody holding my hand, but in the sense of, just understanding how that business would work. Because it was really not a separate business. It was really just me trying to pick up different clients. And it just wasn't official, I guess you can say. So, long story short, the way that I found Jesse, who is the owner of Lifespace, so I have my license now with Lifespace as I'm an agent there, but I ended up meeting Jesse through Instagram because I was essentially DMing people on Instagram asking how I can help. And I was trying to pick up property management clients still at this small little brokerage in Dormont, and I was just trying to pick up clients, DMing everybody in the real estate space in Pittsburgh. End up direct messaging Lifespace, who at the time had like a marketing manager answering their DMs, and it was something along the lines of, hey, I've been in property management for X amount of years. I'm looking to build a book of business here in Pittsburgh. Do you have any, any clients that need property management services? And they ended up pretty much lining me up with Jesse. Said, hey, I don't think we do right now, but I'll pass this along to our agents and owners and, keep you posted. Long story short.
That's such a cool story. I mean, the perseverance and the
Yeah.
technology, all the millennial things coming
Literally,
together at once.
It really kind of stemmed the beginning of Brix and meeting Jesse and, just kind of aligning everything for me. So I end up not only messaging them, but that really put me onto their brand, and I saw
It was
their
probably
page.
different. So I think the lesson there is do things that stand out, right? How many people were probably sending them messages on Instagram?
Very minimal.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got their attention.
I got their
and
attention.
maybe you didn't get everybody's attention, but
right. Oh yeah.
you
Very
stuck out
minimal.
enough.
Exactly. And that was the one person that I needed to reach out. So I ended up connecting with Jesse, and I kind of became more aware of his brand and his company, and I was like, oh shoot, I like this brand. They're crazy present on social media, and it feels like a real good boutique style property management or real estate company. So long story short, I ended up moving from the brokerage I was at, and I hung my license now at LifeSpace, and that really quite instantly, Jesse and I met, and maybe a couple months later, and at this point, I kind of shifted my, vision of, okay, what do I want to do with my real estate license here?
Right.
I kind of shift my vision to, maybe I will just become a real estate agent. Maybe that's the game plan here. I started talking to Jesse, and very, very soon after meeting him, we probably met one or two times. A few months down the road, obviously at this point I'm telling him about my property management background and just kind of the knowledge I have there. And at this point, he's a real estate investor / agent / serial entrepreneur. Right. But he had probably 25 rental properties. And he's like, well, shoot. He's like, I was going to start my own property management company just because I want to keep it in-house, save costs, I'll be in control of the quality of management,
right.
etc. I was like, well, shoot. I wanted to start a property management company too. And at this point, I was looking into how to start a property management company, and I'm not going to lie, it seemed very overwhelming. Yeah. I didn't know how to get a broker of record. I didn't know what to do with the real estate commission. I didn't know anything.
Right.
I didn't have an accountant. There were so many unknowns that I just kind of felt held back. But when I met Jesse and kind of went into this together, it was instant. And shortly after we had Brix, up and running, and
That's
I
the trend
started.
with you.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't
really
take you
is.
long. I think too, you met people along the way that it was a no-brainer. This person can help me. We have a good relationship. Not only do they have the skills that I need, but they're the same type of morals and culture and everything like that. And then when you meet somebody and you hit it off that well, it's almost like you have to do business with them.
It's quite literally, I think, one of the most important things that I can give in terms of a tip, or for somebody looking to start a business. I really think just trusting your gut is one of them. Just kind of going off your instincts and just those gut feelings of who you're interacting with and who you're working with, because that really does, for me at least, has paved the road. To my short career thus far.
People you surround yourself with can make or break you.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. And really, whatever that quote is, the closest five people around you. It's kind of like the spitting image of yourself, and it's so true. But yeah, so we kick it, or we hit it off, and within months we pretty much start this property management company. And at the time, it's about late 2017, early 2018, and I'm still in Morgantown. And at this point, we started with Jesse's 25 properties, and I was cutting him probably the best deal ever. But I'm managing his 25 properties, still in Morgantown, working a full-time job. I forget how it had to have been maybe 6 to 8 months later. I pretty much quit my job in Morgantown and took Brix full time.
I think we were on the same trajectory, if I remember right, because I went full time in May of 18. I think you were like a month or two before or after, maybe even that same month.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was May or June because it was the summertime of 2018.
Yeah.
So Jesse and I started the LLC the beginning of like the concept of this company. I remember just like meeting him with him for the first time, and I forget what the heck we called it. It wasn't Brix, but we met in like late, I think it was November 2017, and then from at that point, which was like nothing, just a conversation, to May 2018, so 6 months or so, 6-7 months, I'm pretty much quitting my job and we're going full time here. So from starting at
back up 1 second.
Yeah.
Is there a meaning behind the name Brix?
No, absolutely no meaning. It was one, I didn't spend a massive amount of time, but I literally, for whatever reason, I was just looking through houses, like pictures of houses in Pittsburgh. I forget if it was listings or something, but I saw exposed brick so frequently.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this picture. I can't even tell you what picture it was, but I was looking at a picture with bricks in it, and I literally just like, it's like brick. For some reason, I said it, like, bricks, and like it stuck, and I was like, maybe with an X. Yeah. And then my wife made a logo for me, and it just stuck. Like she literally got a piece of paper and started drawing things, and then turned it to real life. It was crazy. So yeah, it was very random. I knew I wanted like a short name, something easy to say, and I knew it would stand out. So no meaning, just kind of a coincidence, I guess. But yeah, so I quit my job full time in May of 2018, and then really grow, kind of fast forward here, I grow that company from, call it 25 properties to, I think at the height we had about 260 properties. Wow. Worked with about 70 different owners, and really we kind of very quickly kind of had quick success and had a good reputation, and I really felt like we were on a really good trajectory in terms of making a splash in the property management industry here. And at the end of the day, though, I kind of, at this point, I was in property management for about 10 years, and I was really doing 90% of the work for Brix in the day-to-day operation. And that was
we couldn't figure out how to get you out of it.
And that was the tough part. Yeah, it was very tough because it's such a, and it makes sense why a lot of property management companies grow so quick, because the hard part is not picking up clients. It's keeping the clients happy and providing a good service. So I knew when we reached about 260, call it, on our way to 300 properties in 3 years, I knew that we would have to really build out a team, because I can't just do it all. I'm doing at this point the leasing, the accounts receivable, accounts payable, managing the delinquency balances, overseeing the maintenance, the marketing, everything. So it's just like, to scale that, I knew that I would have to be full time for the remainder, the short term 5-10 years. And I just really was kind of at this point within the industry for about 10 years, and just really wanted to pivot long term to a career that I kind of had more of a passion for, because like I said, I kind of used this as an opportunity to kind of leverage what I knew and provide a good service. But property management is a very tough industry to make a long-term career out of. So I, at this point, obviously had my real estate license, but I was never a full-time real estate agent. Obviously, I was so focused with Brix and growing that. But at the end of 2020, we ended up selling Brix to another property management company locally in Pittsburgh. And really since then, I've been kind of, working at full-time at LifeSpace as an agent. And it's been a whirlwind, but it worked out super good. The company that we sold our book of business to is a great company, and I have a great relationship with them and help them, kind of as like a independent contractor, or almost like on a consulting basis for any questions and anything they need regarding our Brix clients. And it was a really smooth, transition.
Yeah, I remember going through the negotiation with them. We were like, we think we can get this much, but I just don't want to do it anymore.
Yes, it's literally,
that's
so
business
true.
sometimes.
It's so true. And I think the most important part of that transition was not only like the money that we were able to pull away from that deal, but more or less just like my quality of life. And the stress. My stress level went from here to here.
Right.
I mean, it's completely different. It's, helping people buy and sell houses is an enjoyable, fun thing.
Right.
And telling people they're, late on rent and, collecting bills from people, like it's not a good, you're dealing with so many negatives in a day. And,
Right.
I think that's why I was successful in this field, because I can, kind of like I don't let a lot of little things bother me.
Right.
Which you have to have thick skin in property management.
Well, it's interesting because even, not that we spent a ton of time together while we were working on Brix, but I know in the beginning I noticed a difference in your attitude.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
and I think that changed my advice on the negotiation, because I think I know we could have gotten a lot more later if we'd have held on.
Yeah.
But I saw the stress you were under, and I was
For
like,
sure.
it's time to pull out.
For sure.
Take whatever you can get.
Yeah, I should back up too. So we got connected. I forget, was it 2019 or it had to have been 2019, right?
It was the tail end of 2019. Yeah.
So up to that point, I was pretty much I had an accountant that I worked with, pretty much just to file our taxes for the 2018. I think it was 2018.
Yeah. Yeah, we did 19
when,
and 20 for you.
Yeah, so I had somebody who just really did our taxes for us in 2018, but then in 2019 I was like, okay, that was part of like this beginning scale of this business. At Brix, I almost instantly hired a maintenance technician, which is a good friend of mine who crushed it for me. And then I was like, okay, I need to get the accounting side of things figured out here, because that was not my forte. I took maybe 2 or 3 accounting classes in college, but it was not my forte by any means, especially running the account, like the property management, the accounting of a property management company is so crazy, because you have all of your properties accounting, and then you have your company accounting. Like, there's so many different layers to it.
And then you have escrow accounts and
so many different
things
bank
you can't
accounts
touch, and legal restrictions on that.
Oh yeah. So it's just a different ball game. So that's probably, going back to tips for other people, having a good accountant from the beginning of starting a business is one of the biggest things that I
tell people that all the time.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, find an accountant, partner with them, and your life will be so much easier.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a no-brainer, because every business has the accounting books.
Right.
You have to account for your books, and you have to pay taxes. Like, these are inevitable.
Right.
If you're not savvy enough to do that yourself, you have to have an accountant.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we ended up linking up that way, and it's been, Brix was a very a lot of learning moments.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, nonetheless, now I'm just a real estate agent. I've closed 5 deals so far this year.
Wow, that's
and
great.
I have 6 under contract.
Awesome.
So the beginning, it was kind of just like, keeping things moving, and it's technically, I like to think of it as my first year in real estate as a full-time real estate agent, because up until this point I've really never been able to focus full-time.
Right.
But no, it's been great. 5 sold so far, 6 under contract, couple listings, and this real estate market is pretty crazy right now, so it's interesting.
Listings are key.
Yeah. Listings are definitely key. But no, it's been great so far.
Yeah, good. All right. I mean, your story, I love hearing your story. I don't think I've heard the whole thing before. I've been part of it, obviously, working with you, but just want to ask some questions about kind of some things that went on during there. So, questions we like to ask everybody. What was your biggest failure while you were at Brix, and what did you learn from it, and what do you think other people can do to avoid that?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and it was tough for me to come up with a specific scenario or something, but I think overall it was just kind of setting such high expectations for myself, and really just not aiming for goals that on paper looked good but not necessarily were attainable or achievable. And over those years I really learned that trusting the process, and kind of learning from the ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
That was more valuable than hitting 100 properties this year, or signing this many leases this month, or so I think it was just kind of the biggest thing was just not putting such pressure and high expectations on myself, and just kind of going out every day and just trying to crush it as best as possible.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I think entrepreneurs by nature are dreamers.
Yeah, for sure.
And my dad was a CPA as well, and I think I'm more entrepreneurial than him. But he always told me never trust a hockey stick. So if you have a graph and somebody's showing you their sales and it goes like this and then like that,
yeah,
that's what entrepreneurs think is going to happen every time.
Yes.
I mean, when I'm talking to my wife about stuff, she's probably so tired of hearing me talk about like here's the deal we're going to sign next. Here's this deal. Here's what that's going to mean for the business. But then it doesn't happen because it's sales.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the hardest thing for, especially some people kind of back into entrepreneurship, but people like you and I I wanted to open a restaurant even though I couldn't cook from like 8th grade on.
Right.
Like I just wanted to start a business.
Right.
But people like us who want to start a business, like we don't see the negatives.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So true. So true. I mean, it's tough to and it's tough to block that out because that's kind of just like I feel it's embedded in me just to like look forward and think big and want to be here today but here tomorrow.
It's important though. Like I think that's why you're successful, because you might have had these high expectations and you didn't reach them.
Yeah.
But you're still here.
Yes.
Instead of here, right?
Right.
So I think it's important, and I think you need someone, an advisor, a spouse, someone in your life that can balance that and say like, all right, take it down a notch.
Yeah.
Here's what's probably going to happen.
Yep.
And it might be somewhere between there, but at least you're reaching for that, but also have that realistic goal. And,
for sure. For sure.
That's the one thing I struggle with too. Is
and it's probably
realistic
common, just like you said, as entrepreneurs, because it's such a especially like seeing other people succeed, and people aren't showing their failures. It's just what you see. I think it's now I understand the importance of you have to put in the effort every day. It's not like an overnight thing. It's and I think that's important for a lot of people to know because, like I said, people only show their successes and from the outside view, it's looking like, oh, well, start a company and it'll be successful. And you don't hear about the 15-hour days for, 3 years. And,
And even, not that the first thing failed, it was a learning experience, but Brix wasn't your first attempt at this.
No, for sure.
So I think, that was something I learned today, but I think it's very interesting how you hear this all the time. It takes 20 years to become an overnight sensation.
Oh, exactly.
Right. So people don't see the work that goes into it.
Yep.
And that's the one thing I think everybody should be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But I also caution them, if you're not going to put the work into it, it's going to fail.
Yeah. It's like nowadays everybody has the potential to start their own business or start their own vlog or podcast or with this technology and everything. But it can be pretty darn disappointing if you don't have that expectation kind of in the back of your mind that this can fail.
Right.
And a lot of people aren't good with failure.
Right.
But no, I think that kind of helps weed out the true entrepreneurs or somebody that's treating it kind of like as a hobby.
Yeah. So you've been successful. You successfully exited. That's kind of like the dream of all entrepreneurs.
Right.
Do you have any plans for any other businesses? Because you are you are an entrepreneur. So I know you're doing the real estate.
Yeah.
But knowing you, I don't think that's all you're going to do.
No, for sure. So I love real estate sales. I love being an agent for buyers and sellers. I am currently putting that as my full primary focus. I've also flipped a couple properties over the past few years and dabbled into the investor world and all that good stuff. And but no, I am literally itching to start another business. Literally 2 hours ago, I wrote something on a piece of paper and I put 2 targeted audiences for this company that I was thinking of. Like, I'm not going to even say it because who knows what will happen, but that is so embedded in me. Yes, I will 100% start another company of some sort. I do plan to still be in the investor space somehow, but just like kind of, what I said earlier, it's impossible to be a part-time real estate agent if you want to be one of the top agents. So I definitely want to really give that my all for the next couple of years and see where I can kind of take that book of business and just kind of fueling off of the traction I have now. But to answer your question, no, I'll definitely start another business.
So if you were, since you are going to be starting over again, what lesson are you going to take with you? What was the big thing that for other people, but mostly for yourself, that you would caution or warn people about?
I think the biggest learning curve that I really gained from Brix was just the scalability part of it. I when we sold Brix, I didn't necessarily, that wasn't the game plan. It kind of just happened. I thought I would own this company for 5 more years easy. But nonetheless, I think, I underestimated the amount of time and, that it would take me to kind of get out of the business. I was so embedded in working for the or in the business, or what's the best way to put this? I was working so heavily for the business and in the business, it was tough to have the business kind of work for me, or to kind of remove myself from that. Even hiring employees and other property managers and maintenance techs, and it was still very tough to train all the 200 some tenants to, now you have to call this person. I was so big on relationships, and like still to this day, any of my clients, whether it's the owners or investors, I have the time of day to talk to them, answer any questions, help them out as best as possible. And to kind of like take that level of service and then kind of just have to teach somebody else how to do that, it was next to impossible to almost scale that. And I think that was probably the biggest thing, is just having better expectations on scalability, and really kind of going into it as, okay, here's the expectations for year 1, but if we don't hit that, that's okay. Just kind of having, like I said, work hard every day and not necessarily have to, have these high goals that you have to achieve every time.
So you don't have to answer this if you don't want. So how much cash did you have to start the business? I know Jesse invested and gave you properties to management.
Minimal, and that's the nice thing about a property management company, is there's not much overhead to start the business. And that's why it always seemed so attractive to kind of leverage my property management knowledge, just because it didn't take $20,000 that you had to have, because you don't own the properties. You're more or less, service businesses in general are usually lower overhead, because you're providing a service that's, based upon what you can provide to those clients. But minimal. I think maybe $1,000 or so for the LLC docs, and just to kind of get that all. Another $1,000 to pay for the year of insurance. We had to get a broker of record, so we paid him a monthly fee, but minimal. I mean, under $5,000.
That's good to know, because a lot of people think, like, no matter what business you get in, you have to have tens of thousands of dollars to start at a minimum. So service businesses are a little kind of unique in that sense. You're not pushing products, or you don't have to have inventory, or other than just kind of getting things in the sense of like LLCs and insurance and all that good stuff. It's pretty low overhead. If you could have, would you have started with more money and had that structure from the start? Do you think that would have made things easier, or do you think, because it'd probably be debt that you'd have to take on, or a partner, do you think that would make it easier, or do you think it would have been more stress on you?
I think with kind of going back to what I said earlier, property management specific, maybe this is even Pittsburgh specific, it wasn't crazy tough to get clients. So my problem, or the issue scaling, wasn't necessarily getting the new clients, which the money that I spent to pick up a new client was very minimal. A lot of times it was word of mouth. So no, I don't think so. I don't think I would have needed it, just because the business itself wouldn't have, I don't think, benefited any more than it did. The only thing that would have been nice, I guess, is managing only 25 properties is only going to bring in so much income. Luckily, I was in a position to, coming from a good job, I had a little bit of money saved up that I could live off of. I would say if you don't have 6 to 8 months of just kind of like a savings to live off of, then maybe that money could kind of come in handy. But if you kind of have something put away a little bit for just to live off of, and let the business kind of do its own thing, as long as you can pick up new clients and grow your business quick enough, shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good, because a lot of people think, well, if I just had this much money, then I could build out my team and have everything perfect.
Right.
When you just need to start,
Exactly.
right? Like,
Exactly.
if you don't start and you're sitting on the sideline this whole time, one, somebody might come in and do a better job than what you're going to do.
Yep.
And then they've got that first mover advantage, and you're playing catch up if you ever
Yes.
do start it.
Yeah.
But it's also going to discourage you.
Yeah, for sure.
I think as an entrepreneur, you need to jump.
Yes.
Like you tried it part-time, for whatever reason it didn't work for you in that case. I started my business part-time, it worked for me. We weren't quite where we needed to be when I went full-time, but had some kind of base to at least the proof that the business is going to work
Right.
before I went full-time. So I think just testing the waters is good. And I love when you say 6 to 8 months of expenses in the bank.
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah.
people don't factor in their personal finances when they think about their business finances.
So true.
And when I meet with somebody starting a business, that's the first thing I look at. What do you spend on a month?
Yeah.
What do you need to take out of this business on a monthly basis? When are you going to be able to take that out?
Yep.
So I think looking at, obviously I like the financial side, but looking at those finances, this business might not be viable,
Yeah.
right?
So true.
But if it's not, what changes do we need to make? Do we need to change a revenue model
Yeah.
to get it to be a viable business?
Yep.
Or do we need to find another idea?
Exactly.
Because like someone like you, like if property management wasn't viable, you'd have done something else by now.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
So
for sure. It was just a matter of time, and like I said, I think just lucky to be in a position where I was able to leverage a knowledge or get such, a great knowledge for an industry at such a young age,
Yeah.
and really be able to kind of leverage that into, a business.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important to, whether it's, it's anything sales related, I feel like you can kind of leverage into a business.
Yeah.
If you're selling printers or selling desks, I mean, it's creating those relationships and to, being able to kind of bring those with you to your company that sells desks or sells printers.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. So you're having fun with what you're doing now?
I am, and property management. I gave that so much, effort and attention for, like I said, really 10 years total. But with Brix, 3.5 years or so, and yeah, it's just completely different. And my day to day is just so much more productive, and I'm crossing things off and getting stuff done, and it's just a completely different, business, and yeah, I'm having fun.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about before we go?
No, I think we covered a lot. I appreciate you having me on, and this is good.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So that was our first episode. So thanks again to Justin for being such a great guest and a good partner when we were working together. Stay tuned for more. We have more people lined up that we're going to be bringing in. We're excited to bring this to you. Tell us if there's anybody you think we should have on this. Tell us who it should be. We'd love to talk to them. Any ideas you have for the podcast, please feel free to share them with us. You can check Justin on, I think it was Facebook, Instagram,
Everywhere.
Twitter. Justin Riapos, right?
Yep,
Riapos.
yep.
On everything. I think we had his handles pop up throughout the podcast. So thanks again. Our outro music was created by my 8-year-old daughter, Sydney. So be sure to hang on and listen to that. She's so excited to share that with everybody. But until next time, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Businesses Start Here podcast. We hope you were inspired and encouraged by today's podcast. We would love to hear your feedback. Please send us an email at podcast@vilioti.com. That's podcast@VILLIOTTI.com. And be sure to share, like, and comment all of our content.